I'm gonna start working on a video going over the many forms of upgrading that are available to you in Flyff Universe, and I hope to have that released in the next couple weeks. Yeah, about that one. I guess I shouldn't make any promises when in the middle of entrance exam season. Sorry about that one. Hey, what is up guys, it's Emenalus and welcome back to another video. When you're new to the game, one of the most complex things to wrap your head around is definitely upgrading. The game offers so many different ways you can upgrade your gear and improve your performance, it even took me a while to understand what was going on. There's the base gearing and then comes general upgrading and upgrade bonus effects, elemental upgrading, piercing and chivalry. And don't even get me started on all the different items related to upgrading such as power dice from 4 to 12, S pros, G pros, A pros, piercing card. Alright, seriously! Who the f*** designed this game? Alright, I shed some neck hair there for a bit, but there's no need to worry. I hope that after today's video, you'll at least have a general understanding of how upgrading works and what different opportunities lie in wait for you, expanding your horizon of potential in the game. I also want to mention that while most of these items are premiums, upgrading definitely isn't something only limited to spenders. You can get a lot of things done with just pure effort and gameplay, so do look into this topic as something relevant for you regardless of how you play the game. There's a lot of stuff to go through, so let's get right into it. Before I start covering any of the various different upgrade methods available in the game, it's important for you to know what different kinds of items I will be mentioning beforehand. This is so that you won't be confused or overwhelmed by me suddenly mentioning a bunch of new items that you've never heard of and losing track of what's going on. Let's start this mixed bag of goodies with the most important base item, power dice. These are the items that serve as an essential catalyst in upgrading, and you will always need one in general upgrading no matter what. The power dice range between 4 to 12, all serving a different purpose. Players usually call them PDs for short though. Power dice 4 to 8 are generally found simply by playing the game, as most monsters have a small chance to drop them. Same applies to elemental cards that are used for elemental upgrades. Power dice 10 and 12, however, are mostly dropped in dungeons, which also makes them harder to come by and more valuable. Next on the list are upgrading scrolls. These items become necessary later on as you go for higher upgrade levels, as these prevent your item from breaking if you fail an upgrade. Upgrading in most cases is safe only up to +3, excluding piercing, which can break your item immediately. There are 4 types of upgrading scrolls: S protects, A protects, G protects, and F protects, used in different kinds of upgrades. All of these are premium items that are primarily bought from the cash shop, but you also have a small chance to drop these from special giant monsters called violets, except for F protects. Violets are also guaranteed to drop S protect lows, which are basically the same as S protects, except that failing an upgrade will also make you lose an upgrade level. Last but not least, upgrade materials. There are 4 different types of upgrade materials in the game: Erons, Classic, Mineral, and Guru. Different types of upgrades use various combinations of 2 different materials, and the higher the upgrade level, the more materials it's going to require. These materials can be gathered from caches that can be found around Madrigal. Erons caches are located in Flaris, Classic caches in Say Morning, Mine caches in Garden of Rises, and Guru caches in Darkon 1 and 2. Darkon 3, and maybe Asria, can spawn all types of catchers, but it is not as effective for farming a specific material type. To extract these resources from catchers, you will need a collector that you can buy from a general store. I will be going over the specific uses for each of these items in more detail as I go over the upgrades they are used for, so don't worry about understanding everything quite yet. With this much though, you won't be completely lost with the mumbo jumbo that I'm about to explain. To start off on the topic of upgrading, let's get started from the grassroots, the general upgrades. General upgrading is a method of upgrading that increases the basic stats of your equipment. It provides extra attack for weapons and defense for armor and shields, based on how high the upgrade level is. The maximum upgrade level for weapons and armor is +10. Upgrading weapons or armor requires the usage of power dice 4 until +5, and after that, you'll have to use power dice 6 to upgrade all the way to +10. You also have the possibility to use power dice 10s, special dice that can be used at any upgrade level and has a higher success rate. As I mentioned before though, PD10s are harder to come by. On top of that, you will need Erons and Minerals. After you upgrade a weapon or your armor set to +3 or above, they start to have glowing visual effects. Weapons get a white glow which intensity grows as the weapon's upgrade level goes higher. Your armor, on the other hand, will start having an effect called the blue flame that starts from your shoulders and slowly spreads across your arms and your entire body as the upgrade level goes higher. You are also given an additional effect bonus for upgrading your set to a certain level, which can also be seen in Flyffypedia.com's upgrade menu, along with the percentage increases in the base values with each upgrade level. However, as I mentioned earlier, upgrading beyond +3 becomes unsafe and you will have to use protection to ensure that your item doesn't break you upon failing an upgrade. For general upgrades, the scrolls used are S-Protects and S-Protect Lows. S-Protects are premium scrolls that allow you to stack failgrades when you fail an upgrade, which means that your chances of succeeding and upgrade increases the more times you fail until your next success. This amount is based on the base upgrade chance, which will be added to the chances upon each failure. These scrolls, however, are more expensive to come by. S-Protect Lows, or S-Pro Lows in short, on the other hand are a more budget-friendly choice as these are guaranteed to drop from violence in bunches. However, if you fail an upgrade level with these scrolls, instead of stacking failgrades, you will actually lose an upgrade level. Because of the success rates, S-Pro Lows are more likely to be cost effective to use only up until +5. On the bright side, at least it allows an affordable option to go beyond +3 in upgrade level. General upgrading is only one of the many ways to improve your character, but it's definitely one of the most important ones to maintain. Make sure to pick the right equipment for you before upgrading. Don't also forget to look ahead into what gear to aim for at higher levels. Saving up in good time for a new set of gear and not spending everything what you currently have is important. Elemental upgrading is a form of upgrading that adds an elemental attribute to your desired weapon, shield, or suit. Elemental upgrading is quite similar to how general upgrading works, making it an easy topic to follow now that we've gone over general upgrades. However, before I go any further on that, allow me to explain how elements work. I will be making a video about elements another time, but for now I'll be going over them briefly. Flyff has 5 different elements in a non-specific order: fire, water, electric, earth, and wind. All of these elements have an element that they're particularly strong against, but also an element that they're weak against, making them a double-edged sword. However, when played correctly and with caution, they are the greatest tool to improve your damage output. You can see the enemy's elements through the mob tracking function on the map, or by the colors of the balls behind their levels. Red stands for fire, green for wind, purple for earth, yellow for electric, and blue for water. Now that you hopefully understand somewhat how elements work in Flyff, it's important to know to avoid monsters that you're weak against and prioritize monsters that you're strong against for the best possible results, even if this means skipping certain monsters. Now, going back to the actual upgrading process, you can apply elements on your weapon, shield, or suit with items called elemental cards, which are split into 2 different cards that can be used up until +5 and +10. Similar to power dice, don't you think? Each element has its own pair of cards, which takes way too much space in my opinion, but that's another matter entirely. Once you've chosen what element you want to upgrade an item with, the upgrade process is pretty much similar to general upgrading. Use an elemental card instead of a power dice, use S-Protects for protection past +3, and... right. The materials. As if things were complicating enough, each element uses a different pair of resources in its upgrade process. Imagine that. So let me go over these as well. For fire, you will need Erons and Guru. For wind, you will need Erons and Krasic. For electric, you'll need Minerals and Krasic. For earth, you will need Mineral and Guru. And for water, you will need Krasic and Guru. Like, for the love of God, could you not have made this stuff any easier to remember? Pretty hard even for someone trying to teach, you know? There's a limit to how long my neck can grow, I think. Anyways, aside from the varying resources, upgrading works fundamentally the same way as general upgrading does, just that there's an elemental card instead of a power dice. Reaching an elemental upgrade of +3 or higher will also give your weapon an elemental visual effect in the same colors as they are depicted on monsters. Just like with general upgrading, the visual effect becomes stronger with each passing upgrade level and neatly merges with the general upgrade effect. Even though suits and shields don't get a visual effect, they will still have an elemental resistance or weakness depending on what element they have on them. So if you have elementally upgraded armor, do make sure that it's an element that works well with your enemy. Just be aware though, you can't counter a giraffe. After you're done adding elements to your gear, the next step is to apply some piercings into them. Just like with element upgrades, you can only add piercings on your suit, weapon, or shield. Piercing is an upgrade method where you can create sockets on any of these items, allowing you to apply piercing cards to them. This is done by using a power dice 8 or 10, where 10 was more expensive but likelier to succeed. Weapons and shields can have up to 10 piercings, while suits can only have 4. This is because suits use different piercing cards than weapons and shields, which are much stronger in comparison. That being said, piercing cards are divided into 2 different types. percentage, and grade piercing cards. Percentage cards can range from 2, 3, 4, and 7% and give bonuses to HP, MP, FP, attack, and defense. These cards can be applied to suits. Grade cards have 4 different grades, going from D to A, where each passing grade gives better bonuses. These cards can be applied to weapons and shields. There's so many different grade cards in the game that instead of me listing them all out, I recommend checking out Flyffipedia's database for all of these cards. Trust me, it'll save you from a headache. I'll leave you a link in the description if you want to explore more. Also, while we are on the topic of different card grades, you can attempt combining 10 lower grade cards into a higher one with some money and a low chance of success. You can use an F-Protect to protect your cards from vanishing in the event you fail, but in most cases this is less cost effective. Pay attention to individual card prices and an F-Protect scroll's price tag before making an investment, and figure out which is gonna cost you less. Piercings are a very effective method to boost your performance and have flexibility over what you want to improve on your character, but it's also quite expensive. Unlike any other form of upgrading, piercing is unsafe from the beginning, and it's best advised to always use scrolls of G-Protect to prevent your item from breaking in a piercing process. G-Protects are also the most expensive scrolls that I'm going to be mentioning in this video. Unfortunately, scrolls aren't the only thing that costs. Each piercing attempt takes up a good cut of money, and removing a card from an item also costs heaps, encouraging extra care of what you put in your items. Piercing is an expensive business altogether, but on the bright side, at least the upgrades are noticeable. As long as you succeed, of course. The final modification you can apply to your weapons and shields is a bonus stat scroll. Scroll of weapon bonus and shield bonus respectively. These stats can vary greatly, as there are many different bonuses that you can get and they can appear in different percentage values. Scrolls of weapon bonus apply a bonus damage percentage for any offensive skill, but not on any sorts of buffs. For example, mercenaries can get a bonus stat line for slash and the skills after it, but not for skills like blazing sword and sword mastery. Mind you that the weapon has to be at least the skills required level to appear as an option. For most weapon bonuses, the percentage value is anywhere between 10 to 25%. An exception to this rule are sticks, which can also get a bonus for healing, ranging from 5 to 15%. Scrolls of shield bonus apply a bonus resistance stat to your shield. The bonus itself can cover a lot of different areas, such as elemental resistance, crit resistance, magic resistance, poison or bleed resistance, overall block rate, or even reflect damage. The value of these stats can go anywhere between 5 to 15%. Depending on how you play your character, these bonuses can either make a huge difference or be completely useless. Usually AoE characters will benefit from a specific skill bonus and defensive stats when paired with a shield, but the 1v1 is unlikely to even use their skills in the first place. So, before you consider applying a bonus stat, make sure that you have actual use for it and not just wasting your money. Of course, you can also apply a random bonus on your weapon to make its stat window look just a little prettier. There's no need for giraffes to go that far though, they are already fabulous by themselves. Despite jewelry suffering from side character syndrome when compared to a character's core equipment, well-maintained jewelry can have a major impact on how well a character performs despite not giving any particularly special stats. Where jewelry doesn't offer diversity, they can pack a good amount of quantity. Jewelry is divided into 5 pieces: 2 rings, 2 earrings, and a necklace. Rings usually boost a character's main stats, earrings boost secondary stats such as attack or defense individually, and necklaces provide a sizable increase to stat pools such as HP, MP, or FP, and their respective restoration. Jewelry can be found rarely from mobs, and sometimes even with added upgrade levels, up to a maximum upgrade of +7. Any upgrade level beyond that must be made by hand, up to the potential maximum of 20. Upgrading jewelry itself is pretty simple. You only need the piece of jewelry, a PD8 or 12, and a scroll of A-Protect for upgrade attempts beyond +3. Jewelry at first only gets small increments, such as +1 strength on a Vigor ring per upgrade level, but beyond +10 the upgrade proportions slowly increase, where a single Vigor ring +20 can provide you a whopping 40 strength. So if you don't find anything else sensible to invest on, do not underestimate jewelry. An exception to this rule are the jewelry dropped by the World Plus Clockworks, which you can tell apart by their +1 to +3 monikers. Unlike other jewelry, these cannot be upgraded, rather the upgrade level is determined by what difficulty Clockworks it dropped from. +1 from the easiest, and +3 from the hardest. So don't buy these in the hopes of upgrading those to +20. You would be disappointed. Greatly. Jewelry is also a good way to provide you a bump to stats that you might not want to hold onto forever. In the case of jesters, for example, you'll want strength for damage, but also dexterity to take advantage of their incredible crit scaling. However, as gear and bonuses get better, you might not need as much dexterity as you did when you first reached level 60. So, to minimize the need of allocating extra stat points to dexterity and potentially having to buy a restat in the future, chivalry and other sources of extra dexterity can be used to provide flexible dexterity modifiers that can be transferred back over to strength once your build starts demanding less of it. In other words, chivalry can also be incredibly useful with pushing negligible stats that you want primarily build on your character, and of course your main stats if and when you don't need other stats anymore. So make good use of that if you get the chance. On top of weaponry, armor, and chivalry, there's still a couple finishing touches you can do to add a cherry on top of your set of equipment. You can make the most out of your equipment with the help of stat scrolls. These scrolls, when used, apply an extra stat modification to your weapon, shield, or armor, ranging from +1 to +4. Each higher stat value is significantly harder to get, so your budget can be a huge determinant whether you'll want to max them out completely, or just take whatever you can get. In the end though, the impact of added stats is so much more minimal compared to most other upgrade methods that this should be mostly used as a last resort when you've maxed out everything else or if it's the most affordable upgrade to go for. Cloaks, masks, and fashion, the so-called vanity items, can provide you minor stat boosts, but you can also wear them purely for the looks. The stats themselves won't make that huge of a difference to how your character comes out, but making a character truly look like your own can make your experience worth all the effort you're putting into it. If you're a perfectionist when it comes down to stats though, not to worry. You can transmute fashion to look the way you like while keeping the stats, wear a cosmetic cloak on top of your statted one, or even hide your fashion entirely if you like your battle gear. And in case you're wondering, the giraffe head is organic. Please don't try pulling it off, you will not be the first one. Currently, cloaks can give varying main stat boosters up to +8 and or some extra HP, and certain fashion sets can give anywhere between 2 to 10% extra speed, but these may be subject to change in the future. As always, I recommend checking out flyffpedia.com for any statistical details that you might be interested in. Whew. I guess that pretty much sums everything that I can tell you about the upgrade system. As you might have figured by the course of this video, my words stand true on the fact that the game has a ridiculous amount of ways you can step up your game. I might actually have to come back for this since I probably missed a couple things even this far into the script, but let's hope that it doesn't come to that. I'll be letting you know in the comments if I notice something missing. But while it's true that the game has a lot of options and it heavily encourages spending, in my opinion that's one of the charms of the game, even as a free-to-play. And thanks to the fact that the game allows the exchange of premium items, you are not forced into a paywall. Considering how many different ways that could go wrong, I respect the game for that kind of flexibility. If you liked the video, feel free to share with others who might need it, and if you'd like to see more, consider subscribing to know when I'll be uploading next. If you are left with any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll make sure to respond as soon as I can, and as always, you can find me in my Discord server if you've got something urgent you want to talk about. Don't hesitate to ping me and ask anything else outside upgrading, I'm more than happy to help. There's no dumb questions. Be sure to also consider following me on Twitter, where I'm posting my activity quite regularly for heads up on where I'm going and what I'm doing, and if you want to get into my personal life a little more. I'm also intending on making more content outside of just guide making, so if you'd like to see me more in action both life and beyond, look forward to that soon. For those of you who are listening this far, I'll have you know that due to heavy demand, I'm gonna be making a guide about assists next. Thanks for all the comments and the positive feedback, by the way. It's lovely to hear what you guys think. I'm hoping to have that released in the next 2 weeks and not 2 months this time, so sleep your assist hats on the shelf just a little longer, it's coming. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. But until then, it's bye bye.